local area will all be different based on, they may impinge on the choice you make about what lane you eventually do decide to choose. So in terms of choosing what to do, how to choose between, as I say in my introduction, a people, place, or project, you're going to focus more on social issues. Maybe you're going to focus on life and career design even. Doesn't have to be all the bleeding heart stuff. Maybe you're trying to choose your creative artistic path and find a way to make it financially viable so you can be making money doing what you love. Maybe it's supporting groups that have these social justice issues and causes that are currently in the news with the protests and the riots and calls for police reform. And, you could fit anything in here, from the opioid crisis to human trafficking to, gun crime, education. Now, of course, we're dealing with pandemic and health issues. You name it. I mean, every cause needs people to help alleviate it, let's put it that way, or move it forward if it's a positive thing. So in terms of starting with the F, which is focus, then we move on to U, which is to unleash your options and steps or ways to move forward in looking at the big picture, expanding out. So you're moving from a convergent thinking to divergent thinking with the U of fun, which is unleash, meaning expand, diverge. And then the N is narrow. So you then narrow back down to say, okay, now that I've explored a lot of options, what am I going to narrow it, and what specific steps can I take? So in the larger scheme of it, just using some different language about the creative process that you move yourself through, we start with that creative dilemma. That is, what do you choose? How do you choose in order to free up your focus? Maybe it's your money, maybe it's your time, your energy to act, or in fact, whether you choose not to at this time. And there is a lot of peer pressure, I have to say. And even a lot of organizations were finding it imperative that they made some kind of statement about social justice or Black Lives Matter, racial equality, and so on, or they were lambasted by their customers, clients, or social media. And while I'm totally all for social justice, equality, I do believe Black Lives Matter, of course. I also think that it's okay for people to believe what they want to believe. You can just choose not to work with them, or take your business, or take your whatever other way, or you just agree to disagree, because we live in a society where we're supposedly free to have divergent and multiple opinions, diverse opinions, and agree to disagree. And we've not been very good at that lately. It's interesting in history, and this is like a little sidelight, but in preparing for this, I was reading about even some artists of old, that like Matisse and Monet back in France, back a few hundred years ago, when they just wanted to shift the style of painting they were doing, painting that was already getting acclaim and they were well known for and well remunerated for. In fact, they had to make this is a creative dilemma they had. Do I stay with what I know that's paying well, that the public are asking for, or do I follow my creative impulse and take the risk that maybe people won't support it or I can't sell them? And in both cases, they actually took the risk and moved forward. And what we know of Matisse's work, his more famous work actually is his later work, where he cut out the shapes with solid colors and pieced them together. We're not as well introduced to his earlier painting styles. Monet, of course, as an impressionist, he started painting the flowers from the edge of the pond, the lily pond. And then when he got a commission, he actually took the bold step to paint the flowers from inside the pond, took a risk. And in fact, in the end, it was acclaimed. So they took the bait and moved into the creative dilemma. So you then want to explore aspects of different options. So what do you need to know about it? What's new about it? What's the current state of play? How could you maybe help? How does it match with your skills, your time, your resources? How accessible do you need to be, and are you, either online or in person? And how could you actually contribute? And are there consequences, positive or negative, to your contributing? And what you may find is that it's more trouble than it's worth. Or you could, like the story I was telling earlier about the police officer who was put in between her superior and the what she found on the ground with the perpetrators, I guess I'll call, and she was squeezed because she felt she should do one thing, but she was told another. If she went against her sergeant, she'd lose her job. And she made a choice which had consequences for her and for the later the perpetrator. So it's not always easy to make a choice. Some people will lose jobs if they post pictures on social media and so on. So you have to decide how deep you want to go in, what you're willing to share, what you're willing to put yourself out there and be public about, or do you have to work behind the scenes? And ultimately, what impact could you make, either to the movement itself or to the people that it serves? So you move through the creative dilemma of choosing a lane in a sense, but you might want to explore aspects of the different options and then decide based on all those factors which are more feasible or more, makes your heart sing more as you move through and explore those aspects. Then you look at what's most important and meaningful, what matters most to you. So you consider then the values that it allows you to live out by participating, or what you'd give up if you don't participate. And in some cases, that's the deciding factor. And then ultimately you integrate your findings, your thoughts, your feelings, your sense of motivation, maybe it's conviction, and then decides what first steps you're going to take, and maybe some longer term steps you could take along the way to, and then integrate that with your daily life, or upend your daily life if you actually make a big career change. Now, I mentioned the human pendulum as a way to check in with your intuition, because sometimes these decisions are not rational. You can't, you can lay out all the evidence like I just explained between deciding your creative dilemma, exploring aspects of different options, discovering what's most important and meaningful to you, and then integrating into your real life. Sometimes it's not enough. You want to know, at a gut level, what should you do? So there's one way to do this that is really quite amazing. Now, there's a whole field called kinesiology and muscle testing, and this is kind of an extrapolation of that. It's the human pendulum. So if you stand up straight with your feet shoulder length apart, take a nice deep breath, and then say to yourself, which direction is no? And for most people, no goes left to right, back and forth, left to right. Their body will begin to sway left to right for no. And then you say, then that means front to back is yes. And you stand there and let your body say, move to a yes, move to a yes. And you tend to sway perhaps back and forth, front to back. Now, you have to listen to your own body. So ask and see which way your body moves, because it can be very individual. And then you ask the question. You say, I'm thinking about getting involved in, choosing my life and career, and I'm choosing between this job and that entrepreneurial enterprise. Should I do this job? Should I take this job? And then you be specific about it, and then stand there, breathing deeply, quietly, and let your body just begin to sway either yes or no. Now, and then you ask about the other option. You can use this for choosing between who you should date or marry, whether you should invest in something or not, whether you should buy a certain kind of nutrient or vitamin at the store or not. In the end, obviously, it's a kind of a skill, and it requires a sense of nuance. For some people, actually, literally, I've had this happen to me, where sometimes the response in your body is so strong, you literally like almost fall over. But often it's very subtle, and it takes some practice. So I wouldn't start out doing this on really serious issues like who you're going to marry, but you could start out with saying, which cause am I going to put some support to this month or this year? And it's very effective, and it's something you can do in and of yourself, and it allows you to begin to trust your intuition, your gut feelings, and that will always serve you no matter what choices you make in life and how you choose to invest your energy. So with that in mind, I thank you so much, and I'm going to sign off here just by thanking you for being with us and reminding you that the life you live is the legacy you leave. Bye-bye.